So the forecast is calling for what some are likening to Snowmageddon. Others referring to as the snowpocalypse. Alright, so there's my list. Probably kind of hard to read, but it says snow blow from shed, connector for Mr. Heater, extra water, water lines, gray-black tank, empty, battery for camper, and propane. So, yeah, that's my list, so I'm sticking to it. See how much I can get done. Here goes nothing. Brought my gimbal along this time, so hopefully it's a little smoother of a ride. Because these mountain roads are pretty atrocious. And they're just getting worse with every weather event that comes our way. If I can get out of my own driveway, that's the first test. Okay. Did it. We're going. Yeah. That's my... No seatbelt. I don't wear a seatbelt on these roads because I'm only going about 20 miles per hour. So. And as you can hear, everything's jostling around back there like it always does, and I can't even shift gears right now because I'm trying to hold this thing and not whack it against the window or something. It's a little trickier than holding on to that little camera, but it probably looks a lot better, right? Like I'm not everybody a stroke out there. So here's the deal. For some reason I'm in cruise control. Okay. Solve that. All my lights are blinking on the dash as usual. Haven't figured that one out yet. So I'm going to attempt to go into every store today mask free. And if I get stopped, if anybody asks me, I'm going to be like, what are you talking about? Pandemic's over, man. Where you been, right? Governor's already talking about phasing out the mask mandates, and of course, senile old Grandpa Joe Biden is still talking like it's a thing, like setting his date for July 1st or July 4th. Sorry, my bad. Independence Day, where we can declare independence from this evil scourge of a virus. How about we declare independence from this evil scourge of a government which created this whole scam, epidemic, crisis to grab more power and to try to force us all to be human guinea pigs with their Bill Gates vaccines and eugenics programs, trying to manipulate the gene pool of the masses in order to, I guess, become gods someday. because if you want to really speed things up, your scientific research for life extension technologies, you might as well just make the whole world population your giant petri dish and let them, get them to sign up voluntarily for the experiment, so that way and pass it all during an emergency, so that way you have no legal liability that ever blows back on you. And you just use these puppet states all around the world, like evidently America is now, Puppy Road, to pass your devilish little agenda. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what's behind what's going on here. Man, this place, people are filing in, man. Whew. Where all the traffic come from? Alrighty then, people are freaking, I think. I'm thinking people are freaking. I don't know, you just get this kind of a, let me fix my freaking, there we go. I think you just get kind of this anticipation, this sense of everybody's just kind of sitting around waiting. They all know it's coming. Not exactly sure when yet, but the snow is coming. Big storm, record-breaking snowfalls they're claiming possibility of. So these people are probably wondering, what the hell is this guy holding while he's driving? Alright, so anyway, let me hold this thing. This thing is tricky to hold. Okay, it feels like I'm sideways, but whatever. So yeah, this whole exercise is just insane. Like, you can't make this up. Some dystopic sci-fi novel with a supervillain like Bill Gates, who literally wants to limit the world population, and we're all just willing test subjects, right? And people do it willingly. Like, they'll line up, they're bragging all over social media. They feel like they've done such a great, what is it, the refuge of a scoundrel's patriotism, something like that. Because that's their argument. Like, I'm being a good citizen, and it's more like a world citizen. Like, we're all doing this for the world. Like, wow, what a propaganda line that is. It's no longer about just being a good American citizen, because that's old-fashioned. Don't want to just be an American patriot, because that's like Stone Age thinking right there. We're all part of this global petri dish, this global plantation of the technocratic elite, billionaires. By the way, I thought liberals were against billionaires and corruption and all that. My bad, I keep tagging this thing. Yeah. Anyway. So if anybody didn't catch on yet what the whole mask thing was about, and I've been thinking about this today again, this is kind of a reoccurring theme in my thought processes. Another vehicle, he's like, this guy is crazy, what is he holding? He's gonna run into me. The whole mask thing, like, if you haven't caught on by now to really get a sense of what this was all about. I'm trying to drive right now, this thing is like blocking my whole view, so it's I'm definitely not going to do this on the highway. I know this road like the back of my hand, so I can just pretty much drive it blindfolded at this point. Just about. If you haven't figured out by now for the third time what all this mask mandate nonsense was all about, well, think about it. Like, here's something that had absolutely no science behind it. Completely arbitrary practice. Pretty much like I called it a talisman, or just this superstitious behavior that was forced on us by the state. And, despite all logic, despite all reason, despite all science to back it up, they got away with it, right? And so just on a psychological level, wow, what an effective propaganda campaign that was, right? And you shame those as being anti-science for not wanting to play along, and you shame them with guilt, and you're gonna kill Granny, and you hate old people, and you hate everything. You hate everybody basically, just because you don't want to conform to their dark age superstitious practices. So in my mind, it's just a prep. They're prepping the population for ultimately what we know is coming as Christians, if you are a Christian. Hopefully you are by now, but Bible-believing Christian, that's key. Not too many read the Bible anymore. But in the book of Revelation, the mark of the beast is alright, so now there's a push for cashless society like never before, and this cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is, in my mind, a big part of it. You gotta popularize it. You got all the kids are into it. It's like the latest trading thing for the kids, the millennials and younger. I don't know what the next generations are called now, but all the kids are doing it, right? The younger generations, and even, like I said, I got a couple billionaire friends that are invested into it, and they said, man, this is the best profit I've made ever in this short amount of time. And yeah, they make it really appealing, right, to hop on board with this digital funny money. But and it's like packaged in a way where, oh man, it's just sounds so freeing, doesn't it? You're gonna have your own little private bank in your hand on your smartphone. Well, there's a lot of other elitists like Bill Gates who have already outlined that's part of their plan. They want, black people in Africa, out in villages, out, in the Amazon. They want everybody on their own little smartphone personal banking system. Digital cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, right? And so, yeah. There's somebody trying to get up his driveway, I think, back there. Good luck, buddy. So it's part of their plan already, and it's all about control. Because if you can, as I read an article today, when the tax man's going after the crypto, by the way, he's coming after your Bitcoin profits. They call it Operation Hidden Treasure, something like that. That was interesting. Came up with the most interesting little names for their programs, government. But so yeah, it's part of the plan. It's the Rothschilds magazine, 1986, predicted a world currency. Now everybody's calling it a world currency, and it's designed to suck up all the fiat monies, the paper monies of the world. And just recently it was Iran, I think, that's trying to ban it. Maybe they're catching on, right? Maybe they realize, hey, wait a second, this stuff is undermining our currency. And yeah, that's exactly what it's designed to do. Just like I think it was a Russian lawmaker that called it a CIA conspiracy. And that's exactly what it is. I'll let this guy pass because I had a little time to finish up, wrap up my train of thought. Okay, this guy's not gonna pass me. All right then, you sit there, buddy. You park there. All right. Anyway, nice turning around. Okay. Why did you ride my ass then? So, I promised I wouldn't go on the highway with this thing in my hand, so I'm gonna pull over anyway. God dang it, I keep hitting this thing on the car. It's probably gonna be really loud. So let me just finish my rant here. How does this tie in? The arbitrary, dark age, talisman, superstitious belief system that a mask is going to block a microscopic little virus from spreading. An airborne virus at that, which prior to COVID, all the science was redacted basically, and we just listened to the priesthood, which my next podcast is about, by the way. It's the priesthood of the medical establishment. Talking heads like Fauci. What they say goes, right? It's just from on high. It's divine. So that's what happened, and they as this little social experiment unfolded, at first there's just a few mask wearers. And I remember every time I'd go to town, I only go to town maybe once every week or two. Every time I'd go back to town, there'd be more and more and more. Diaper faces, I've heard one affectionate name for them. So, think about it. What could you not do without a mask? You couldn't go into a store. You couldn't do some of the basic functions like mail a package, UPS, USPS. But key, you could not buy or sell. So that's why I kind of see this as a trial run for ultimately the mark of the beast. And how does it work? How does it tie in? It's, our smartphones. For some reason I didn't bring mine. I don't know why I didn't. That was stupid. Anyway, it's the one time I can actually get reception is when I'm downtown. That's when I actually could need the phone. But in your hand or in your forehead. In your hand means your actions. You go along, right? Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are the type of this antitype, and they were instructed, they were commanded by King Nebuchadnezzar to bow down before the image because they were tricked by the wise men or whatever that wanted to get vengeance on them because they were too powerful in the kingdom, I guess, too influential with the king. They knew that by forcing them to bow, literal act of worship, they would force them to break their God, the one true God's commandments, namely one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not bow down and serve graven images. And so the antitype, which is the mark of the beast, it will involve either voluntary compliance through actions or through your belief. You'll either believe in it and you'll truly believe that this false worship is, you'll be truly deceived. You'll think this is the bee's knees. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Totally contrary to God's law. It has to break. That's key, one of God's laws. Or you'll just go along to get along, right? How many people, my question was, a lot of Christians, I was guilty of doing this myself, just to not trouble the waters. And I'm not saying that did not break one of God's 10 commandments. Like, that's what a lot of Christians were saying. It's like, how does this conflict with God's 10 commandments? Well, there's other things in the Bible, in the Old Testament in particular, in the New Testament as well, where the apostles were trying to preach the gospel and they were told to be silent, to shut up. And they said, no, we will not. That was a transgression of their First Amendment rights, right? Freedom of speech. There's plenty of Old Testament practices. Not eating pork. That's not in the 10 Commandments. There's a concept of strange flesh and like Sodom and Gomorrah and the lust of the flesh. That's not really specified in the 10 Commandments, but they are sins, right? The way I logically define my resistance to this mask mandate is not only on the level of just contributing to this fear climate, which just gives power to the out of control, power-grabbing government right now. It also robs me of a certain percentage of my right to life. The breath, life is in your breath. I mean, you're given the breath of life, right? Adam was given the breath of life. We're given the breath of life. We take the first breath at birth. Breath, oxygen is essential for life. It's that simple. And literally, like, too predictably, I guess, because, like I said, how much What percentage of the oxygen we breathe are we going to allow the government to regulate? And what do? They up the bar, right? They said, you know what, 1 mask isn't enough. Let's do 2 masks now. Oh, okay. And there's literally people virtue signaling with their 2 masks on. Okay, then what happens when you go to 3? How about 4? 4 masks? You're literally threatening your own health at that point. You're endangering your life. And this is a government decree, right? It's not constitutional. You know, the government that only gets by from the consent of the people, the governed, right? They need the consent of the people. And I think, personally, you know, somebody said on Facebook today, that same thing pretty much. And, you know, when do we draw the line and say, you know what, this government is not protecting? They've dropped the ball. They're not even fulfilling anything that the government was designed for, like namely protecting us, keeping us safe. In fact, they're probably the biggest threat to our liberty, our freedoms, our prosperity. And when do we make a stand? When do we stop being sheep and just going along to get along? And ultimately, you know, if you believe the book, it won't end, and it'll just get worse. And this is just a stepping stone. This is just a springboard for ultimately the enforcement of a false system of worship that must transgress one of God's commandments. And it revolves around worship. So, you know, just think about that a little bit. And like I ask people, I like to get people to think for themselves. I don't like to force feed information down your throat all the time. You know, sometimes it might sound that way, but which one of the 10 commandments do you think could actually become legislation in this quote-unquote Christian nation? What one do you think all people would sign up for? Like, yeah, that makes logical sense. You know, it's not going to be stealing. It's not going to be cheating on your wife or your spouse. It'll be the one that revolves around worship. I don't think you'll get every religion to bow down before a graven image. That'll be tricky, right? So yeah, just something to mull over your brain and think about a little bit. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. It's a trial run for the mark, the enforcement of worship. And if they can get people to go along with something that has absolutely no reasoning behind it, no science behind it, you have to suspend your higher mental processes just to go along, to get along. You just got to put this thing on. You know, it's bullcrap. You know, it's just theater. And I mean, I'm talking to the people who are still thinking out there. I know everybody doesn't think that, but that's the key. That's the same thing that'll happen with the mark, is that it'll be apparent. It'll be obvious to everybody what the choice is. Will you accept it or will you not? Will you go along with it knowing that it's wrong? That's key, right? Like you don't commit sin according to the Bible unless you knowingly transgress one of God's commands. And that's it. God's fair that way. God is just, and that's the way it has to be. So as I can see, I've already gone over 20 minutes, and that's probably plenty of yapping for one day, but I'm going to go down to town. I'm going to try to get away with it. You know, I got my backup plan. I'll just do this kind of thing if I have to, but I'm just going to walk in, go to Home Depot. You know, I'm getting some preppy supplies here, and need a little connector for the propane heater and gasoline. Basically, that's it. I don't know, maybe something to drink. And I'll be back, and I'll let you know my progress. And it's the calm before the storm right now. It's kind of interesting feeling. You can feel the dampness definitely in the air. Yeah, it's getting real. And I don't know, one estimate was 90 inches. I mean, that's insane. That's like over 7 feet, I think. I don't know about all that, but you know, they always make a big deal out of every weather event now, which I think will also, by the way, tie into the Mark of the Beast, because it's the push for global governance right now. This whole save the environment angle, which, you know, who wants to stand up against that, right? I mean, we're Christians and we're supposed to be caretakers of the earth. I am not for destroying the earth. I'm not for polluting the earth. You know, I love nature. I love creation. But they'll use that on a global level, you know, craft an argument, and that's a lot of people, they underestimate the adversary, right? There's a mastermind working behind the scenes. This is a spiritual deception. This is a spiritual battle. If you overlook that, like a lot of people do, they just look at the physical. They look at the little characters involved, like the Bill Gates, you know, all the top elite, the Soroses. Well, they're taking orders from a very intelligent mastermind. And if you underestimate the great deceiver, then you are going to get deceived. You know, the greatest lie ever told was that the devil didn't exist, right? And, yeah, just be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And let's keep in touch, and I'll let you know how it goes. I might film a little bit while I'm in town, but I gotta put this thing down now. Hands killing me. All right, thanks. I'll be back.